Hey there everyone, it's Lisa here again. I'm joined here today by the lovely Deb Hallmark. She's the most amazing person, as you're going to learn very shortly. So Deb is the Senior Philanthropic Relationship Manager for Deakin, which is a mouthful as you can tell. But Deb's had a whole history of a life of philanthropy, and we're going to explore some of that. It's very interesting. So Deb, tell us a little bit about your role at the moment and what you're busy doing at Deakin.
So at the moment I'm a Senior Philanthropic Relationship Manager at Deakin, and as you rightly said, the bigger the organisation, the longer the title. But basically I help raise funds for research or for scholarships or the Women in Leadership project, which I've been working on with Business and Heals.
Yes, some exciting news, but yet to come.
We've got some amazing research that really is aligned to helping in the community, and I like to work on things that sort of make a difference.
So one of the things that Deb has done in her past, which was just amazing, and we'd all know it, is the Good Friday appeal. And so I was chatting to her about it, and she informs me it's not just a one-hit wonder of one day. So tell us what it takes, to pull it together for a whole year, because it's not an easy thing, is it?
Well, I ran the Good Friday appeal for about 3 years, and a lot of people think that it's just that one great big day on Channel 7 when you have the Royal Children's Hospital Good Friday appeal telethon, which of course is the massive one day of the year that draws all the giving together. But organising all of the stakeholders who have been involved with the Good Friday appeal is an all year round effort, and that people don't necessarily realise that the appeal was started in 1931 by the Herald and Weekly Times. So it's actually very linked to the fabric of Victoria, our society, the history of the newspaper. So the tentacles of the Good Friday appeal run into every single little Victorian community, because everyone has a news agency. The newspaper delivered the tins to their coordinator in each country town. So there's 300 country area managers. And of course in 1956, HSV 7 was Herald Sun Victoria 7.
Right.
The newspaper actually owned the television station.
Yeah.
So Channel 7 became the television partner for the Good Friday appeal. So we started in 1931.
Yep.
1956, with the Olympics coming to Melbourne, Channel 7 also started the Good Friday appeal, which is what we see on television. And these long partnerships of the Uncle Bobs, the Ladies Auxiliaries, the Pied Pipers, all of these organisations have been around since the 1930s doing the tin rattling. And
some people, you were saying, had raised up to $1 million personally.
Yeah, we've had people, a collector in Moe, in Seymour, these country areas. Many people have dedicated their lives to fundraising for the Royal Children's, and over that period of time have raised $1 million off their own back.
Isn't that extraordinary? And that just goes to show you what people can do. Now, when you came in to organise the Good Friday appeal, you were responsible for a whole raft of pivotal changes. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
I came in, and the then executive director of the Good Friday appeal, a woman named Christine Unsworth, had been there for about 14 years, and she was an amazing leader. It had been at Etihad Stadium, where they had incredible support from Channel 7 and football players, and it had been staged there for a long time. But Channel 7 really wanted to give it a new platform and move the venue, and the Melbourne Exhibition and Convention Centre had been built, the Jeff Shed complex, enormous, of course they only like it called the MCEC. And so it was planned logistically to move the entire event to MCEC. Now, logistically that involves, for instance, all of those coin collections from the CFA, all the country areas, bringing all of the coin in, and over $1 million in coin is actually counted on Good Friday. So four of those bays in the MCEC were for the fire trucks and fire engines to bring the coin in, and then you have the
so that's
Uncle
Jeff
Bob's.
Shed, if you don't know what the MCEC is.
And you have the Uncle Bobs and the Pied Pipers. These are the old organisations where you have hundreds and thousands of volunteers who sit and count the coin and use some coin counting machines or count manually. All of that is processed there on the day, accounted for. You have the huge phone room, which is supported by the NAB volunteers, and they're answering all the calls. The whole of the Telstra phone room is set up, and that's been supported from the beginning.
So
of the
all
telephone.
the bays and the whole of the Melbourne of Jeff Shed and the convention centre were taken out just for this one appeal. Wow.
On Good Friday. So
Yeah.
the first year that I managed, 60,000 people came and attended. In the second year, 80,000 people attended. So we had 4 or 5 bays that were set up for, a great big kids' day out event with amusement park rides and all sorts of activities. There was an event one year which was to do with the World Police and Fire Games, and because they've all been involved with the appeal from history, they wanted to have their march come into the appeal and be televised. So that was another 3 bays of Jeff Shed, and the last 4 bays that year I said maybe this is a roller skating rink. It was getting harder to fill the whole spaces, but of course that we had the Teddy Bear Hospital, which was in one of the massive rooms within MCEC, and all of the student doctors who treated kids' teddies, which was all about them getting real world experience, but the children breaking down their fear of going to hospital. So there's many, many aspects to what actually happens on Good Friday. It is an enormous event to run in its own right.
Yeah.
But the management...
I've got a headache just thinking about it.
The management of all the stakeholders actually went on all year round.
So one of the interesting things we were chatting about, and this is something that anyone can apply to their business or to, some of you running social enterprises, was the idea of actually working with some of your partnerships and improving the relationships. So give us a couple of examples, because you were telling me some great stories before about how you doubled up on the outcome.
So on a larger scale, the Woolworths relationship had mostly been in contact with people at the head office at Mulgrave. So we went...
Is it the head office, actually?
Yeah, it's not the head office. Bella Vista in Sydney is the head office of Woolworths. So we engaged with the people who were in community relations up in Sydney to look at other opportunities at different times of the year where we could fundraise with Woolworths, not just for Good Friday. And of course, a lot of people don't realise, but the WEG posters, or now the Mark Knight posters sold at the end of the grand final, all of the money from those posters goes to the Royal Children's Hospital as well. It's part of the total that's announced on Good Friday. So when Collingwood wins, that is literally $1 million poster.
Go Collingwood supporters.
And Woolworths were happy to engage and sell those posters at a different time of the year. They were also happy to do these $2 little footballs that went up on posters that raised another $250,000. One of the cars from Holden that would normally go in the online auction was instead sold as raffle tickets through Woolworths to raise money for the kids, and that effort across all of Woolworths managed to raise another, $300,000. So in 1 year, renewing the effort in Woolworths as one stakeholder doubled their amount of giving. So we actually went from $900,000 from Woolworths to $1.8 million by renewing our efforts with them at other times of the year as well. So that was perhaps one of the largest stakeholders. And if we looked at on the smaller scheme of things, but pulling all of the facets of the appeal apart and saying how can we improve each area, all of the country area managers would have a hamper that was in each hotel. And a lot of the pubs, when we went out to see people in the country towns, were saying, these stuffed animals aren't really doing it for us. We would like sort of different hampers. So just forming a new relationship with Interhamper, and they gave us $20,000 it cost to them of much nicer grocery hampers with great, some drinks and great items that were wrapped and looked amazing. And all of those hampers going into the pubs meant that each hotelier was collecting a lot more money and giving it to the country area managers. So we were able to, just with small things like new coffee mugs that had a nice design and new pens for the volunteers in country towns to sell with their raffle tickets, double the amount of money coming in from the country area managers.
See, it's great. So it's so simple. You're still using the same people. You've just given them a little bit more of a way to engage.
Yeah, just slightly tweaked their offering and helped them by providing a higher quality of, sort of merchandise,
Absolutely.
And these small improvements added up to be very large totals across the board. So that was from the largest sort of stakeholders like Woolworths down to our country area managers. But when you have 300 country area managers and they're engaged through the Herald and Weekly Times network into all of the news agencies in country towns,
yeah,
you know, it adds up.
And so you might think that Deb, you know, just sat back and oversaw a lot of this, but she would have been on the road visiting towns, celebrating those $1 million sales and out there. So what we tend to see of the Good Friday appeal being a one-hit wonder day obviously is, you know, a year in the making, and for, you know, that sort of fundraising, that's what people need to do. And so I guess, you know, and everybody else who's thinking about it, you know, the stakeholder partnerships are so critical, aren't they?
It is critical. Any successful fundraising program will engage a variety of partners in a matrix. All of these organisations want to work collaboratively and network together, and it's by, I guess, cross-pollinating all those partnerships that you get the most powerful results.
So if we go back a little bit before you actually got involved with the Good Friday appeal, how did you get into philanthropy?
So I'd always kind of helped if people asked, can you do, you know, a volunteer job? I had girlfriends who were on the board of MCRI, which is Murdoch Children's Research Institute, and they used to have great big family fun days at Cruden Farm, and I was asked to help them volunteer, and I did. And later on in my career, that was sort of in my 20s, those one-off fundraising efforts actually really meant something down the track. So you never know what you might agree to do pro bono or help in a volunteer sense if you're involved in a social enterprise or a not-for-profit. Later on in your career, some of those things can be the most powerful aspects that you bring to the table. When those things really mattered when it came to the job interviews for the executive director of Good Friday appeal.
And not just so much the tasks. So you've got to appreciate Deb is a master networker. She knows, well, just about half of Geelong. So no pressure, but you know, you have built, you know, you tell everyone how important networking is to you.
Well, I think networking is really kind of a holistic thing. I am now 50, so I've been working in advertising, marketing, and in different areas, and lived in the western part of Victoria in Balmoral, a small town, for 10 years. But all along, I've accumulated friends and acquaintances or people that I've worked with, and at different times, those relationships have been really, really strong, or I've heavily engaged, or people have come back to me. I might not have heard from them for a long time, but they've rung me and said, you know, can you help with this or that? And I mean, I call that the karma bank. You know, you help people out with things, and it's a deposit in the karma bank, and then later on you might need a hand with something, or you know, and so that to me isn't necessarily networking. I have a great many friends from different parts of my life, and you know, some of those people, you know, I might network with or go to networking events, but it's an important thing to me, but it's really relationships. It's those, you know, the friendships that you make, the people who you really connect with, and, you know, over a lifetime, that is a very powerful thing.
Well, and I noticed Stephanie's jumped online. Stephanie represents Elf Squad, which is our charity of choice for the Geelong region for the Business and Heals group. So, you know, again, the idea of the intersection between business and purposeful philanthropy is, I think, really important. I think today, you know, we all, you know, we're only here for a short time, so, you know, being able to do something of value is really beneficial, and I think you've clearly nailed it in all the different stuff that you're doing. So
yeah, I mean, look, people say to me, you know, what about for-profit? Go back into for-profit, Deb, make a killer living. But it just didn't do it for me. Throughout all of my 20s, I did work in advertising and marketing, but I didn't feel like it really aligned to my core values, and I wanted to do things that made a difference and gave back to the community, and I got a lot better feeling out of doing that kind of work than just merely in business for profit-making purposes. But everyone is different, and all of those organisations that are you know, big business are wanting to engage and make a difference in the community as well. So that's why that, you know, networking, creating a network matrix around or your stakeholder management is so important.
Absolutely. So we're delighted to have Deb on board as an ambassador to Business in Heels. And if you watch this space, we've got some very exciting news coming around, how we are working into the future with Deakin. So very excited. Welcome aboard.
Thank you so much.